Got it.
And so if you want to share in the chat where you are in the world and what you work on as a writer, what it is that you write. Are you writing screenplays, poems, novels, or nonfiction? And we will, hi, Mary.
Hi.
Good to see you again. Good to have you for this second expanded version of my presentation or workshop or webinar. We're going to go get to work. So I just told Ron, whom I know, a dear friend I met in Esalen, and he's now in Pennsylvania, and we met there again for his workshops, which I'm not going to talk about because we're here for screenplays or novels. The recording is set, and I hope you can see my slide and me next to it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. So that's why we're here. Let's see if this is working. My name, Michaela von Schweinitz. By now, you both should know how to pronounce this. Filmmaker, writer, book coach. And I'm here to talk about what screenwriters should know about writing a novel, which is, I hope you can see the slides moving.
Yes.
Why even should a screenwriter write a novel? Well, there are many reasons. One is to protect your intellectual property, be the director of your story, explore inner worlds, widen your tool palette, and just have fun with new inspirations. I will elaborate on these points. Just start with the intellectual properties, where the screenplays, your offer, Mary knows a bit about that part. They get rejected, but maybe, some ideas will be used, and then that's that. Or it will even get optioned, but it never gets produced. You get the property back, maybe the script back, like depending on a contract, after 5 years, nothing happened, you can take it to the market again. Or you might even sell it, but you don't receive the credit on the screen because they hire different writers, and there goes your writing credit on IMDb and on the screen. Or you might get the credit, but you will be asked to do numerous rewrites, again, depending on your contract. You might even get stuff produced, get the credit, but find that there have been so many changes that you now want to look at a new venue where you can express your ideas and not have them, interfere on every level on your project. So to publish a novel gives you copyright protection. So then you have something you can say and bring to Hollywood with your screenplay and say, this is based on a book. And there you have your following and your readers already, your built-in audience. The second thing I mentioned was the writer as a director. So if you work on a TV show, you're in the writer's room and you work for the showrunner. It's his idea, it's his baby, and you do and get to write what he wants you to write. The producer controls the picture, and the director, he blocks the scenes with the actors. And the actors, they might change your dialogue because, it's not fitting for them, what they think of the character. So in a novel, you are in full control. You direct the picture in the reader's mind. That's a big plus, but it's also the challenge for the writer because they themselves, with their words, control the image in the reader's mind. The collaboration versus creative freedom is another difference between those two instruments, I would say. The screen writer is, or the story the screenwriter puts out will be created, in collaboration with other creative minds. And when you write a novel, you're all by yourself, and you have to figure it out all by yourself. But I'm here to support you finding the truth of your story and to stay true to your story. There are no other voices that will tell you, no, that's not working for the marketplace, and so on. The biggest aspect I mentioned before is explore inner worlds. In a screenplay, everything has to fit into the standard format, which is mainly the character, the action, dialogue. This is what a screenplay is made of. We look at it in more detail. And the novel, you also write characters' emotions and thoughts. You explore the inner world. You express yourself on the vast canvas on the mind. The imagination, that's the entire possible world of your story that you put into a novel that you can do in a screenplay. So briefly, because Marie, she knows how screenplays are formatted, but just briefly mentioning that they are measured in pages. They have an industry standard for the font. They have between 90 and 20 pages, that's the standard. A page equals a minute of the movie, so a movie is between 90 minutes and 2 hours long. In a novel, everything is measured by words. The industry standard is Times Roman, 12 point, and a novel ranges between 65 and 80,000 words, which is 200 to 250 pages. So that's just the, visible formatting. And here again, the little bit more detail, because we will get into it. The scene heading is or slug line, which shows the place and time. The action here from the balcony, and the character, Linus, the extension behind it clarifies where the character is when it's not seen on the screen. And then the dialogue and the parentheticals, which are not on this page, but I'll get to this later. So all this to say, you as a screenwriter don't have to worry about it at all. The format will be taken care of by screenwriting software, which is Final Draft or other softwares where you don't, it's all being formatted for you. But you are pouring your words into this format, the example on the left side. This is an example for a novel, what a page on a novel looks like. And there you have paragraphs, dialogue tags, and characters who can express their feelings, hopes, fears. You cannot do that in a screenplay. In a novel, you have backstory and memories, and they are seamlessly woven into the narration, which can take on different points of views. You cannot do that in a screenplay. A novel writer does not have a software where everything fits in. They have to hire an editor to make sure that the novel is up to industry standards, that it's formatted correctly. And that's not just, the grammar or the typos, but really the format of dialogue tags being put correctly and where you need them. So that opens the world to, new tools that you have at your disposal, but also have to learn about in a novel. Because in a novel, it's up to the writer how the reader imagines the moment. They're full in control, but this is a responsibility as well. And the reader forms the stories in their head. It's not on the screen, it's in their head, word by word, and they are getting hopefully curious about where the story goes, and they keep on reading. Each word has to give the reader something new, or he'll get bored, and without messing with what's already created in the reader's mind. If she had built a picture based on the words you gave, and you threw a wrench in there with something that doesn't match that, they close the book and then that's that. So you have to be really careful with how you put the words. And there is this word of, this saying of an image is worth 1,000 words. Well, if we now take a page from that screenplay, or Ocean's 11, which I can use because for educational purposes, I got this copy. It's a shooting script, which means that there are additional scenes that have been written into it. And this is from 2001. So it's been a while, 24 years. So maybe you have seen the movie, maybe you haven't. It doesn't matter. Here is one scene. It's scene 107, going from, page 6, whatever page that is, all the way to page 70, and it's 3 5/8 of pages. The pages in Screenplays are measured by eighth because it amounts to 3.5 minute movie time. It's one scene of 297. This is the exact same scene, the words from the screenplay formatted in novel standard format, and it's 438 words, 2.5 pages of manuscript. 438 words, that's not enough. If an image is worth 1,000 words, there are some words missing. Well, let's look at this page 68 of the scene 107. On the left, you see the page, and on the right, you see the words as I added a little dialogue tag here because we don't have, test any, but this is just the words from the screenplay. 115 words on that one page of screenplay. So let's look just at the action. I mentioned character and dialogue, but let's just look at the action for now, because that's what, in the end, it's interesting for a writer to write in a novel, the action, what is taking place. And a beat is a pause. It's an action or non-action, a moment that the actor has to decide how to present, what to do with that pause, with that beat. Then this is an action. Then she has an action, she freezes. And then here is the parenthetical, which I talked about earlier, where the actor is being told what to do, how to deliver the lines. And it's this fingers he's holding up when he orders the whiskey. And this one is the last line of action. So in total, on the right, you see the words of the action, the actual action that is in the screenplay. And, it just doesn't look good in a novel, because what do we make of that pause? What does it mean? It's not up to Tess or the actors, if you remember, Julia Roberts, to play that pause, to come up with something that, happens in what she thinks about or feels about in that pause. It's up to you now to decide what the reader makes of that moment. You have to tell the reader. And this is what I'd like you to do. Write a scene for the reader, because those, what were they, 150 words, 15, is not enough to create an image in the reader's mind. So here is your, I'd say let's give it 2 minutes, because it's not a lot of action, and it's about, being spontaneous, and just take a moment for yourself, write it down, and maybe share it later. I will stay quiet for this time where you create that moment for a reader who has not seen the movie, and even if you did, it's your movie now, it's your story now. What do you make of it? Okay, so I'll time this, and you have 2 minutes. What do you think? Put the page up there for you to look at. Did you come up with something?
Would have helped to had more of the backstory because I can't remember the films. So I've no idea what the relationship is. So it's very hard writing like blind in a way.
You're right. You're right. We need a little bit more context. I agree. But what it was really about is just to rephrase these things and just come up with something. You're right. Even just this one page is. Yeah, I should give that context. You're right. How about I give you the context?
So then to a passing waiter, his fingers that's for drink. I don't.
That's for the drink. Yeah, I will talk a little bit more about this. So this is Danny and Tess. They had been married, and Danny was in prison. We saw that earlier in the scene, and now he's out, and he wants to get back together with his wife. And this is the page where, it's in the middle of the scene where he's observing that she's not wearing the wedding ring. And this is, and Tess is sitting, the location I mentioned before is the Bellagio, and she's sitting in the restaurant waiting for Benedict, who's the owner of the Bellagio. And so when Danny shows up, a pair of hands slip over her shoulders and start to caress her arms, she thinks it's Benedict, and without looking at him, she's mocking him. And so already I'm saying she's mocking him, but that's not in the screenplay. That's something that I, as a writer, tell the reader to know about Tess and how she delivers that line. What is this thing? Oh, you're 30 seconds late. It tells us also something about Benedict. Obviously, he's never late. So this is a big deal that he's cutting it so short. But this is already a lot in the screenplay. As a filmmaker, you can, for the actors or for the director, how you shoot the scene, you can take a lot out of this. But as you just observed, there's, where's the context for writing the story in your own words, not for the screen, but for the reader. And so, Ron, did you have the same issues? Not knowing exactly what to do with those words? The
Me?
action? Yeah, Ron.
Well, the truth of the matter is I'm not a writer. So I found the whole thing very difficult. So I'm sort of passing on it because I'm just not a writer, and I don't have an interest in novels, but I am interested in the differences that you're bringing out, which I think is very interesting. I'm loving it. But I'm currently writing a one-act play.
Okay.
So
That's it. Well, that's my next workshop. The plays, yes.
I thought but there is something for me to garner out of this, and I want to hear everyone else as to how they approach this. So this is terrific.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Marie, with this little bit more information, what did you come up with without?
Well, I just wrote Reggie's hand first. He takes a risk, realizing that his action may make her unhappy, but it's beyond his control. He just can't help himself.
Wonderful. I love it. I love it. There's so much in there, don't you think, Ron?
Yes, absolutely.
These are her words. They're not in the script, but they're, immediately, this character is present. He's taking a risk. and things are beyond his control. This is great. I love it. I should prepare better to give the writers next time to have a little bit more, linger a little bit more on the scene, give the background. And I had a similar line. I said, like, he takes his chances and reaches for her hand. Darn, she's not letting him touch her. She's worried. Are you afraid of Benedict? I let him ask. He's asking, and she blushes. And he changes the subject. So that's what I came up with in the meantime. But
even for a play, what I'm getting out of this is that you can make any of the moments deeper.
Yes.
So that's important.
That's important.
With the language as to how you describe what's going on.
Exactly. How do you go deeper? What do you do? Deeper. When you watch a movie, the actors, they go wherever they go to, present the character. But when you're a writer, what does it mean to go deeper? What else do you have to dig up that you cannot dig up in a screenplay? The feelings, the hopes, the expectations, worries. And how do you describe this? Because when they say, screenplays don't have feelings, that's not quite true. She sighs, exasperated. That's a feeling. That's an adjective that describes how she feels. But what does it mean? So going deeper into the exasperation and what it means in that context, you can do as a writer. You can say, like, oh, there he goes again, or, he's not listening, she's worried and, he needs to go, but he's not listening, and to come up with enough words. It's not that you in a novel have to come up with more words, but with enough words to give the reader the image that they cannot see otherwise, right? So how would you describe, that she's exasperated in that moment, right? She wants him to go, Danny, go now, before, okay, Benedict. Even this here is really, this is great screenwriting. She freezes, Danny knows. Oh, so he knows about Benedict. Then he smiles, so it's okay, he's not blaming her, or what? What is the deeper meaning of that moment? And then he orders the whiskey, and when he talks about her great job at the museum, she sighs, exasperated. What do you make of that? There they are. I put them here.
Well, they've got this backstory that, he's frustrating. He frustrates her, because he says one thing, but he does something else. So it's like, here we go again. This isn't new to her.
Yeah, this isn't new to her. You said so many nice things, like, okay, here we go again. He always says one thing and does the other, and then this is not new to her. How do you write this in a scene like this? Because you have scenes in a novel as well, and they're all scenes, which is preferable to just being told about it. Like what you just said is you told us about it, but how do you create the scene for the reader? You can say she sighs, but to just say exasperated is not enough for a novel. It's enough for the screenplay to let the actress know about the moment. Then she creates that moment. But now as a writer, you have to create that moment for the reader. And so, how do you describe that we then immediately know, oh, here he goes again? Is it a hand gesture? Is she rolling her eyes, which is a very overused expression in narration? But, what is it that you can come up with that the reader immediately knows what you just said? There we go again. without saying it in a dialogue, which is what I just did, are you afraid of Benedict? I just referred to dialogue in the scene versus coming up with something that, in this thing here, she freezes, then he knows, he smiles, it's okay, then to passing waiter, which is already separate. So let's just take the first two. She freezes, then he knows, he smiles, it's okay. How do you describe that? How do you present that to the reader?
But you're saying Danny knows, she freezes, Danny knows. What does he know?
Exactly. So, well, the backstory is he already knows she's with Benedict.
Benedict, yeah.
And she freezes because he mentions the name. So she is worried about his reaction, that he will be jealous, that he will create a scene, that he knows about this relationship just coming out of prison. Exactly. It's actually really a mystery to me because why wouldn't he know? She's there sitting there in Benedict's, what is it, in his restaurant waiting for him. And why would she assume, does she keep it as a secret? No, everybody in town knows that she's now with him. He parades her around probably. So this is a good question, why is she freezing, and how would you describe this moment for you? Now you're the writer, you can create that moment. You don't have to stick with freezing or anything else, but it's about that moment that, oh, there is a third person, there is a man in her life that he's competing with, but he smiles. So that's his reaction. But so she interprets, we have the POV of her all of a sudden, it's okay. This is really in action. The screenwriter is the omniscient narrator. He knows everything. But you cannot, tell the audience, oh, in the future, whatever. No, it's an indication, it's a tool, it's a clue for the filmmakers how to present this scene, how to be as a character, to be in this scene, how to behave. And, and since you forgot about it, you don't know how they behave, what they really do. But now as a writer, you can come up with something. So, when he asked Benedict, what is she doing? How is she reacting? Is she afraid he makes a scene? What is her issue there? Freezing is not a pleasant reaction.
Well, she's conflicted, isn't she? Because she still loves Danny. And so it's that feeling of, oh my God, what am I going to do? There are two men here that love me, but I really love Danny more. But they don't like each other. They're going to butt heads. So she's got all this, she's visualizing an explosive situation. She's already going there when it hasn't even erupted yet. But that's what she thinks is going to happen.
Yeah, so
there's some kind of fear there, really.
Yeah, so she basically is taking a moment to think about how to react to this, right? Freezing means she does not have control. That's what you said about him, he's not in control, but she's not in control either, because there's this loose cannon sitting
unexpected. It's unexpected.
It's unexpected. Yes. Yeah. She was not prepared for that. Sit down and talk about it. Yeah. Oh. Right. So and then he smiles, but how else could we express that, it's okay, meaning, okay, she can relax. He's not making a scene. He's not going to confront her. He's not, throw a jealous fit or something. But is it really okay? Is it really okay? I mean, he's doing something, he's ordering whiskey. So, you know, was that planned, or does he, need the drink, or does he think she needs the drink, right? So this would be the thing about, going deeper into the scene to explore what is going on, but in a way that is entertaining for the reader, that it's also the question, like, what is revealed when, when he reaches for his hand ringed, we would not put it in a novel like this. I offered some other phrasing there, but when would we introduce this? Because this looks like a close-up, right? This is an indication that we want to see their hands, hers ringless and his has a ring on it, but maybe he would be playing with his ring, under the table, turning it, because we don't need the camera. We don't need to, worry about lighting or anything. We could just tell the reader that he's nervously, turning the ring on his finger to make them aware that he is still emotionally connected to her, devoted to her. And then to have her ringless hand, how would you, because this is, I think, the first time it's 100 and scene 107, page 70 something, the scene is over. That's the first time we see Tess. So as far as backstory goes, Danny has been putting together, his 11, Ocean's 11, and is about to do the next criminal thing. And he had been asked by, we saw him on the pages earlier, in the voiceover, what's his name, played by Brad Pitt. It's up front there somewhere where I explain all the differences here. It's Linus, right? Or Rusty, played by Brad Pitt. He had asked him, why Las Vegas, why the Bellagio, and I hope it's not because of Tess. So she had been talked about, and Rusty is worried about Danny doing something stupid just because he wants to get his wife back. But this is her first appearance here in this scene. And so what do we need to know? Tess Ocean, she still has the last name, even though she sent the divorce papers into the prison, right? So that's important to know. This is Tess Ocean. But what else do we know about her? We know that she doesn't like, to wait. She's a beautiful woman. She's not used to being stood up. And, with Benedict not showing up in time, that's already something we have to come up with. What does it do to her? If she's a beautiful woman, not used to being stood up and used to Benedict being on time, what is she, worried about? Or is she worried? Or how does she feel about Benedict being late? What does it do to her relationship to him? And these are things where, if we would write the novel, we would prepare the reader for that moment. We would have way more words to show Tess sitting there. Maybe the waiter had already shown up once and asked her, and she said, "No, I'm waiting." Or she had ordered something. What did she order? It's the same time. Well, I think it's midday. So it's not dinner time. Maybe it's after, Benedict shows up after work when he did his rounds in the casino, and then he shows up there. So we have to prepare the reader for the moment of Tess expecting Benedict, and then her ex shows up straight out of prison, making advances, reaching for her hand. And I love the whole screenplay. I love it, the way the scene is written. It's beautiful. It's like Danny, hello, Tess. He's like, as if nothing happened. I don't know how many years he was in prison. I'm out. You're out. Okay. Don't sit. Don't, I love the scene when he's like, oh, you must remember, when I went out for cigarettes and didn't come back, you must have noticed. And she's like, well, I don't smoke. So she's not really, it's a smart, it's smart. It's a dialogue. It's a banter that's really entertaining in the movie. That moment between them where she doesn't, where's your wedding ring? Or you're not wearing it. Well, I sold it. She always has this comeback, this report, but then she freezes when it's about Benedict. And maybe she doesn't freeze because she's afraid that Danny might be jealous. Maybe she freezes because she remembers, oh, he might show up anytime. That's why she said, don't sit down, go now. She's still worried about it, that there is a confrontation between the two. She wants to avoid that. And because she's conflicted, right? She's with one man, and as you said, she loves the other one. How do we know? We don't know in the scene, in the movie, if she loves him. She says all the things that might, let us think she despises him because, he said, I paid my dues to society, and she said, well, I didn't get a check, so who's giving her the years back, the years of worry, and the disappointment because, he was lying to her, It's also funny when he says, you're a thief and a liar here. And he says, well, I'm only lied about being a thief, but I don't do that anymore. And she's like, well, steal, no, lie. So, he's true because he's not doing it. And, he wants to steal from Benedict. So he's not saying, no, I don't do that anymore, stealing. He's not lying anymore. And it's smart and it's perfect for the movies and for the actors to play. But what do we do as a writer to give the audience more than just the dialogue, to let them really experience those feelings of her? If you say she loves him, do we need the reader to know about this beforehand? Or should we keep them in uncertain about it? How do we build this scene? Because the undercurrent, of course, is the fun part that, yes, they are still attracted to each other. So we have to give the reader that information in a way that they know, oh, this is all talk, but really he just has to do and say the right thing and he'll have her back. It's the entire movie. It's the B story. It's the entire movie that, it takes him to get her back. It's about the robbery, but this is the one important relationship that is with its own arc. And as a writer, we would have to make sure that it's told in a way that the suspense is there, that the audience wishes they would be together, right? Because in the movie, they're beautiful people. Of course, we want them to be together because they're beautiful. But, what do we give the reader so that they want them to be together,
It's electricity that, we can feel it, the electricity. And when she walks into the room, you see she has this presence. So we would have her walking in, this beautiful woman dressed in a green, beautiful good hat or whatever we describe her. And we can tell, she's special. And so we build, see who she is before she even sits down. And she's got confident, she's got this, she's sure of herself. Because Danny is back there and she's building a new life without him. But then he's here and she's, she's flustered. She's that composure that she had when she first walked in. Although it's there for quite a while, we see it crumbling slightly because of his presence. Even his presence is enough to knock her off her stool. So So I think you can really build that whole who she is from the beginning.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. And so we would have, if you're a writer who loves doing this, describing the clothes, I'm a writer who's really sparsely doing this. I couldn't care less for clothes. You're lucky that I'm dressed today, but no, not for the outside. But what you said was brilliant, because yes, we get an image from, a confident woman who stands on her own 2 feet, who doesn't really need a man. And if he need, it's the alpha man. Of course, she gets, Benedict, who's running the Bellagio. Who else is there? She's going for, the strong man, powerful man, and a man who spoil her and treat her like, that's a different aspect now. But to stay with what you just said about her, that his presence alone already is kind of breaking down that, posture of her. We can describe this, she could be, that would be a little not very nice. You can come up with better things, but like she could be sweating, she could be fiddling with a drink if she had a drink already. That would show her being nervous. What you said, I think it's really what, as a writer of a novel, I mean, it's the same thoughts that go through the screenwriter's head. It's the same story. They have to think about the same things. They just can't express them in the same way. So this is really brilliantly done for the actors then to execute the scene. But as a writer of a novel, again, it's the same story, and you have to do the same work. Now you have to come up with the words. And one aspect that I mentioned about the different points of view that you can take on in a novel came up when you just said, like, you describe different aspects of the scene where we have to decide which point of view do we take on as the narrator. This is an important decision one makes up front before one starts to write this, the book or the story, that you say, like, okay, whose point of view am I telling the story from? And if it's neither Danny nor Tess, nor anybody from the crew, from the 11, who's the narrator? What does the narrator know? Does the narrator know everything that's going on in each of the characters, so they have this insight, knowing about their feelings and thoughts and expectations, and can play with that? Or can they even look into the future? Do they already know, when you read in the screenplay, little did she know that blah, 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 and then, you give the reader some aspect of the future, and then we watch them, derail their future, or act not in their best interest, things like that. So we have to make those decisions as well. You could stay in the present, or you can tell it, once upon a time. It's all in the past tense. A screenplay is always in present tense because it's happening right in front of our eyes. So there's no past tense, but there's also no looking into the future. You cannot, put in there somewhere, like, okay, this shuts the high roller up fast. Saul looks up from the table just perceptibly to spot Terry Benedict on his way in, right on schedule. We cannot put in here like that Saul, knows what Benedict ate for breakfast, and we cannot put in here that he knows that he's going to he's going to do a meet test, maybe. I mean, unless he had scouted that and knows about it, but he cannot say that. But this is obviously the point of view of Saul, because he's looking and is watching Terry. So the action, this is the action in the screenplay, is almost an omniscient narrator, but they can't look into the future because Well, that would be a voiceover, which is a tool that's been frowned upon because that means that the screenplay writer didn't do his job to develop the scene in a way that they give the audience everything they need to know. Now they need the voiceover to tell them something backstory, or even
Flashbacks, with flashbacks as well.
flashbacks, yeah. And all these things are tools and vehicles to tell the story. And so as far as structure goes, you mentioned flashbacks. We don't call them flashbacks in a novel maybe, but we actually do have them there too. Like in the screenplay, we have to place them in the right moment for the reader to take in information that they didn't need before, but they do need now. And it can't interrupt the flow of the story too much. So, I mean, I hate movies where all of a sudden we cut to 12 years later, and then you have to keep track of the times. It was like, oh my God, cut, today or a week ago, and like where, and they can do all kinds of tricks with the storyline because you're totally out of whack with the timeline of the story goes. You cannot do that in a novel. You have to be very careful not to lose your reader. And so going into a flashback or a memory or backstory, you have to do in an elegant way that maybe there's a thought, that here, for instance, when she freezes, in a novel, she could all of a sudden she remembers last time, Danny saw her with a man. It didn't end well for the man, something like this. This would be a short, look into the past or having a memory and include that. That's just a wild, out of the context thing. But these are so flashback or backstory. Of course, it's the same thing in novels, but you don't write flashback and then you're somewhere else and then back to present day.
Right.
Yes.
For some books, they'll go, they'll be the present day, and then it'll be 100 years before, and so they're telling you all about the grandparents and and then they go back to the present time, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, I can't get it straight in my head. I really hate
right, yes.
That's in a book. When they do it in books.
Yeah, and it's like your reaction tells me that's not a good book. It's not a good tool. It's not handled in a way that it's nice for the reader. I've had the same thing with a book where all of a sudden there's this backstory of this. It's two siblings, and all of a sudden we get a little bit more of the backstory of the brother, but it's told in a way. It's a different book. All of a sudden, I'm getting introduced to a bunch of new characters that have not been there before. I'm getting into a new world, his past, and I'm following the action and everything. And by the time I finally, get used to who's talking, who's doing what, they go back to the siblings' present day, and I'm like, who, what, where, what, who's the aunt, who was the cousin? I forgot about them. It's like, oh man, please don't do this to me. so I didn't like it.
No.
One thing I found that in the screenplay, which was brilliant, was that it shows that he knows who she is in the past because he ordered drinks for her. So he knows what she wants. And in fact, he knows that she wants half of what he wanted as a drink. So that sort of brought us back to what he knows about her in the past. So I thought that was brilliant.
Yes, thank you so much. Brilliant, because it might as well be like a man. I'm always eating what my husband orders, right? No, it's different. So you can have that. He knows what she wants in the narration. and then he orders what she likes. I mean, the drinks never come. The scene is over before the drink show. Well, the scene continues. There's another scene intercut, so it's parallel montage here, but which is indicated by the same time. You can do that too. You can just introduce the next location in the narration of your story and say, outside there's a crowd forming, and then you go back inside and they're oblivious to that. So I love what you just said about the two drinks, that this is actually an indication of, him knowing what she wants and giving, and, spoiling her,
And knowing her past, that brings back the past.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
See?
That brings back the past, but
Yeah.
so subtle because we don't need to go back into the past. Yes.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Great observation, Ron. You should become a writer.
And that familiarity.
That familiarity.
Yeah. Yeah. The familiarity.
Yeah.
So that's, bonds them. Yeah.
And it's for the reader to notice. Yes. Well, that was on that high note, Ron. let me stop sharing. I forgot to stop sharing. Where did I stop sharing? There we are. Let me see the gallery view here. Oh, lovely seeing you. Beautiful. I mean, this was fun. I never did this, and I will prepare next time for that you got more context. But do you remember now parts of the movie, Mary?
No.
No.
I'm gonna.
It's
Look at
24 years. 24 years.
Yes.
And there's like what, Ocean 16
Yeah.
now? I don't know.
Netflix tonight, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I love what you came up with the writing and around your observations, very keen. So yeah, this sensibility, right, that you have to have as a writer, which the writer obviously has in the screenplay, right? But as a novel writer, you have to share this with the reader, And it's all about the words on the page that you share with the reader, and not about the tools of a screenplay that then is being used to create those moments on screen. So it's you have way more work to do, because you have to do the job of the director and the actor and the cinematographer, and have to lead the reader through the image they form in their mind. And everybody will form a different one, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what you give the reader in your writing. Each of us, based on what we experience in our life, will form a different picture. But it will hopefully be a picture that makes sense and is entertaining. And maybe even nourishing, or, depending on what you write. Lovely having you here.
Thank you very much. I'm going to use this. Again, I'm writing it's a one-man play, actually. And it's about Mariah and me. And it's about our life together. So I've got it written. I've got about 24,000 words, but I'm not an actor, so I'm not going to just repeat the words, but I know my life, so I can just repeat it in that way. So I want to go forward with it.
Wow. I mean, I'm curious to find out more about that, because, tonight I will be at a playwright's home. She's doing a table read of her new play, and I'm writing plays too, but I don't know if I get to writing. You have to schedule writing. But yeah, I find it curious, Ron, that you write a one-man play about your marriage. That's interesting. There's
And I'll be doing it, it's all very crazy. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it. So
well, get in touch with me if you need help. All right.
Thank you for this. I appreciated getting back in touch with you, and also your words of wisdom here. Obviously, you really know the novel business and the movie business, and you put them together. I love that. So thank you very much, and thank you, Marie.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you. Good luck.
Thank you. Yes, we'll talk, Ron. Bye, Marie.
See you.
Okay, bye.
This is the end of the workshop. I enjoyed our time together. And here is the question: why would you want to work with me? I'm a screenwriter, I'm a novelist, and I'm a book coach. And because you are a screenwriter, and I love screenwriters, you receive 15% off the first premium package that you book with me. To find out more about that, go to my website, here it is, and book a free discovery call with me to talk about your project, your book you want to write, and what I can do to support you. Thank you very much for your time.